Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Digital Workplace Strategy Summit. This event's being recorded, and we'll send you a link where you can access the recording after today's event concludes. And with that, I would like to introduce Catapult's president, Terry Burmeister, to kick us off today. Terry?
Thanks, Shanna, and welcome everyone. We're glad that you could join us for our session today. There have been so many changes in our workplace today. As you all know, it used to be called hybrid work, and now it's just our normal work-life balance that we continue to have based on all the changes that we've all encountered over the past couple of years. Employees now expect to be able to work anywhere, anytime, and have the same experience that they had when they were in the office before. So there's no perfect workplace that I think we all have identified, but really it's what's best for you and your company. In today's session, we're going to introduce our digital workplace maturity model. There's so many different aspects to digital work, and it's necessary that you adopt what's going to work for you and your organization. At the end of the day, what's really important is what's most efficient and how do we keep our employees engaged and happy. We're going to start with a keynote session with Microsoft's Cyril Belkoff and then Catapult's going to lead into a series of a couple of sessions around our digital workplace maturity model, which will walk you through how you can take this within your organization and expand that on your own digital transformation journey. After the 2 live sessions, we're going to launch into a digital workplace strategy hub, which will be a collection of a dozen or so videos that you can review on demand and really help you define kind of the goals and strategy that you have for your own digital workplace journey. I'm thrilled to introduce Cyril to you. Cyril is a general manager, COO of Modern Workplace Surface and Security. Cyril and his team have worked with stakeholders across many organizations, from small to mid-market businesses to Fortune 500 companies, to help them gain a better understanding of their business challenges as well as the goals in their organizational vision that they have. He's truly a leader, a visionary, a dear friend, and for us, we've worked very closely over the years, and I could not think of a better individual to join us in our journey today. So Cyril, over to you.
Well, Terry, thank you so much. It's great to be here. And of course, things feel a little different these days, don't they? You know, I remember when we were meeting face to face before the pandemic, and we would have never thought about me presenting in a keynote from my daughter's bedroom. And it just wasn't in our world sphere. But of course, we all peer into each other's homes now. We give each other grace, and we are much more connected as humans. And I think that's the gift that we've been given by all this, pressure and obviously tough situations in many cases that we've been through in the last few years. But with that in mind, let's dive into this hybrid work and employee experience topic. As Terry mentioned, there's been a lot of changes, but I think at the core of it, we have reinforced the fact that employees are very, very important for organizations and for leaders. And more leaders are thinking about what can they do to retain and attract employees. And you can see from these stats on here, I won't take you through everything, but whether it's readiness, engagement, training, and well-being, there's real data that shows organizations that look after their employees, particularly in the last 2 years, have had different impacts in the economy and with their business. When we think about what's actually gone on in the last 2 years, it's really come down to this two concepts. The first is this hybrid paradox. And, of course, people have learned how to be productive while they're remote. And many want to maintain that flexibility, just like myself. I've got some personal things going on today, so I need to be at home. But I'm able to deliver this. I'm able to do other business meetings. And I enjoy that flexibility. And it allows me to be with all of you and many other meetings while actually deliver on my personal commitments. So people want that flexibility. At the same time, I also want the ability to go into the office when it suits me, because I know that in-person connection, collaboration, getting together on key topics and brainstorming can only be done in person sometimes. And so this paradox is going on, and this came out of our research, the Work Trend Index research that we did last year. And it was really clear that people want the best of both worlds. So it's unlikely we're going to go back to the past where everything was in person and everything we were in a position where, the remote and hybrid pieces were sort of on this, many people did it, but it wasn't mainstream. This is now mainstream, and you can see from the hybrid paradox from what people expect. At the same time, we are seeing sort of the great reshuffle or the great resignation, depending on what you want to call it. And the same stats bear true, irrespective of what research you look at. But here you can see more than 40% of people considering leaving their employer, and beyond that, almost 50% planning a major career transition, even if they're planning to stay with the employee. And so thinking about talent retention, talent attraction, and also the ability to retrain people on the job or into new categories becomes very, very important. When I think about just our experience at Microsoft, this has gone on at Microsoft. Many people have shifted from very different careers. I know people who were in HR that are now in engineering. I know people that were in finance that now run a P&L in a business group. And so it's very different careers and reshuffling that's going on. So we have to think about that in the context of everything we're doing. We also have other realities out there. And as you can see, in-person collaboration remains important, but we have to think about what that means to digital overload as we think about remote work and hybrid work. You can see the same work trend index that we did showed probably about 9 months ago now, about 44% feeling overworked and almost 40% feeling outright exhausted. Now, things have progressed and improved since then. I think we can all feel that ourselves. But we have to watch work-life balance. We have to watch employee morale and think deeply about how they are spending time in meetings. And you can see virtual meetings has doubled year over year up to about 6 to 9 months ago, and it continues to progress that way. Remote work, it was great for core teams. Core teams got stronger, but broader stakeholders, the connections dropped. And so how can we leverage this new hybrid work and technology to connect people more broadly? As hybrid work comes back, things are getting better, but we have to continue to be thoughtful about how we connect people. Even my own organization, when I started into this particular role 4 years ago now, there were 0 people in my team that were remote. Now I have 40% that are either beyond the travel distances of the office within the state of Washington or outside of the state of Washington, but in the other states within the US, 40 to 45%. And so we have to think about what that means to our collaboration, our culture, our morale, and how we navigate that and manage that. And so when you think about that, we learned through all that research, our own experiences and what customers were doing out there, and realized that there was a new operating model developing. And so let me take you through the quick hits on this new operating model. It really breaks into 3 areas: people, spaces and places, and processes. And overarching of this is thinking about how we can overlay technology to help with these. And so I'll touch a little bit on the business challenges and the opportunities with each of these 3 categories, but also how technology can help with that. So let's touch on people. The first thing here, before you even get to technology, is really about understanding what each person is going through. And each person's situation is very different. Excuse me. And you can see that sometimes, somebody might be looking after a parent at home. Sometimes somebody's a single mom. Sometimes there's 2 working parents in the household and they have to juggle things. And this pandemic has really surfaced all these different scenarios, and we have to enable frontline managers to navigate all these different scenarios and give trust and flexibility to those managers so that they can deal with the specific scenarios for employees. You can see, just from your own experience, what you would want from an organization or your manager. And that really is the top trend that we see coming out. And so at the highest level, there are two areas that become important when you're trying to enable the conversation between manager and employee and the relationship between employee and an organization. The first is teamwork and collaboration. How can you democratize that, make it feel like everybody's experience is equal and of equal stature, whether you're in the office, you're remote, or you're mobile, and able to collaborate in a unique way. And then employee experience. How can you ensure you can engage and connect every employee around culture, vision, and mission? How can you make sure and help them understand how they must prioritize their well-being so they reduce their fatigue and don't burn out, and help them learn and grow? As we mentioned earlier, all of these things are trends that are coming out from that research. When we think about the employee experience, there's this new concept called the employee experience platform that has emerged. And really think about this as sort of the next wave of a technology enablement for all of the things that we've just discussed. And that really centers around, an evolution of technology and a coming together of all these experiences. Think about ERP of the 80s, CRM of the 90s, and now this thing called Employee Experience Platform, or EXP. And it's a platform that brings together the most important pieces to manage an employee experience for an organization. Things like communications, growth and development, how to manage well-being, how to access company resources, what we know is the intranet, but in a very integrated way. Insights about how you work with others, and giving personal nudges and manager nudges in compliant and privacy protected ways. And of course, knowledge, connecting people and experts to documents and content in very material ways, in a way that doesn't require you to be bumping into somebody at the water cooler, because as we know, not everybody is around the water cooler anymore. And so these things have become vital in how organizations execute. Now at Microsoft, with our partners like Catapult, we think about how we execute against that in those two areas. Collaboration, we think about Teams as the digital fabric for organizations. It has become the digital hub for many, many organizations through the last 2.5 years. And it now is the place that people go to start their day, collaborate, meet, and work through projects. Viva is our employee experience platform, and it brings together knowledge, insights, training, a connection to organization and company intranet into one place. Importantly, again, as you can see by the screenshot, inside Teams, so that everything becomes the one place where you go to get information, not only to collaborate, but to connect and drive insights. So I'm not going to dive into the details here. There's lots of information that you'll get through other sessions and on demand around these two concepts, but really important areas on how we are able to address the collaboration and communication pieces and the employee experience demands of our customers. So that's people. Let's jump into places. So places and spaces is really about when you are in the office or you are mobile, what is your experience? What does your meeting experience feel like? And we really want to make sure that we are designing for people that are not in the room, in addition to people that are in the room, so that we can ensure that we have an equitable experience irrespective of whether you are in the room or not. And here you can see screenshots of remote individuals, smaller rooms, larger rooms, and large conference rooms. And as you see through this small depiction of capability, experiences of remote people get depicted in a front row type experience, and full versions of themselves projected in a way that feels more natural. You can see people raise their hands, and an array of smart speakers in the room picks up exactly who's speaking in the room and gives them credit for those conversations so that people remote can see who's speaking in the room themselves. So really democratizing that experience and making sure everybody has a great experience. Digital whiteboarding, digital sharing, and a full, rich set of hybrid experiences as we go back to the office. So that's places. Finally, processes. This is not new. I think we've been speaking about business process transformation for quite some time. However, it becomes more important now as more of the workforce is distributed. How do we ensure that our business processes are digital and transformed in a way so everybody can partake in them, irrespective of whether they are in the office or have to travel to a customer or are remote and working from home. How do you integrate them in a way that's deeply integrated into that digital canvas and make sure that they can get their job done beyond just collaboration and employee experience, but also into the deep business processes that either a knowledge worker or a frontline worker has to face in their day? And here's some three examples that I like to talk about. First is Priority Bicycles. They're a medium-sized organization, and obviously retail was shut down early in the pandemic, and they had to figure out a way that they could continue to sell bicycles. Now, listen, I don't know if anybody knows, but bicycles were hot property early in the pandemic. You could not find a consultant to advise you on which bike to buy and get your hands on a decent bike for love of money. However, what Priority Bicycles did is they enabled a digital experience of the entire showroom and had consultants available over Teams for customers to engage, talk them through what were they looking for, and then obviously close a deal and ship them a bike. Because this is an external activity, they were able to actually assign somebody who were close to the customer and in some cases help them assemble the bike outside in a safe manner. So really good way of adopting the business process. And people were able to be at their home, but consulting to a customer on which bike to pick. And so the customer was able to see the show floor as well as the consultant in selecting their bike. Hasbro, very popular for games. And of course, they did tons of research before the pandemic. They used to get people in and they used to set them up in an office and they used to watch them play a game. And they used to learn and then adjust the game and eventually launch the game. However, during the pandemic, they couldn't do that. So they set up experiences so that they could put cameras in people's homes, obviously with their permission, during the course of the gameplay, a little bit before and a little bit after, to learn in the context of someone's home what would happen with this gameplay. And they learned astronomical amounts of new additional information that they never would have gotten before. And of course, they were able to do this across countries, across boundaries, across cultures in ways they could never do at scale before. So the pandemic forced them to think differently, but they changed their business process. And now they're able to leverage skills from people all over the country and the world to go and do this research and improve their gaming without inviting people to a physical office space. American Airlines, actually very similar to United Airlines, they leveraged Teams and would spin up a Teams chat between the pilot, the crew, the gate crew, the ground crew, and everybody would have a live chat, and documents would be shared there and discussed as the plane was being prepared to depart. As soon as the gate closed and the plane departed, that was all archived and that conversation was kept for perpetuity. Again, something that typically they dealt with either over short radio or other areas that was very hard to archive. And so now they had a situation where they could look back at things after the fact and understand what happened before the plane left. So just a few examples on that. So closing out, people, spaces and places, processes, the new operating model for the new world that we have of hybrid work and employee experience. So thank you for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. It's fantastic to be with all of you. Hopefully this was helpful. And Terry, back to you.